let's get one thing straight. I don't think GTA 6 is going to be bad. I think it might be one of the best games ever made, but being excited for something doesn't mean pretending it's flawless before it's even out. So today, 5 things the community keeps bringing up that could genuinely hold this game back. Not to trash it, because Rockstar's earned fans who ask hard questions instead of just clapping for everything. And these aren't random panic, they're specific concerns grounded in stuff Rockstar's actually done before. I know how videos like this get read. Half the comments think you're hating, the other half think you're paranoid. I'd rather ask now than act shocked in November. Let's get into it. First up, and this is the one everyone's arguing about right now, the frame rate situation. Multiple reports looking at the hardware capabilities of the PS5 and Xbox Series X suggest GTA 6 might be locked at 30 frames per second on base consoles with no confirmed 60 frames per second performance mode. Now, if you're not a gamer who thinks about this stuff, that might sound like a small detail. It's not. At 30 frames per second, the picture updates half as often as it does at 60, and you feel that most during fast movement, quick turns, and shootouts. The game will still play fine, but it might not feel as sharp or responsive as it could. Think about the last time you played something locked at 30 after being used to 60 elsewhere. That slight blur during a fast turn, that half second of input lag during a firefight, it's not game breaking, but once you notice it, you can't unnotice it. Here's why this concern is fair rather than dramatic. This is Rockstar we're talking about, a studio that's had years to optimize for this hardware. If they can't hit a stable 60 frames per second option on a game launching in 2026, that says something about just how demanding this world really is. On the flip side, the PS5 Pro is expected to offer more stable frame rates, and there's a real chance a proper performance mode gets patched in after launch the way it did for GTA 5's Expanded Edition, which shipped with both a fidelity mode at 30 frames per second and a performance mode at 60. But going in without a confirmed option is a legitimate thing to be nervous about. Not something you need to feel silly for caring about. Second, and I think this one deserves way more attention than it's getting, the wait for GTA Online. Rockstar has confirmed GTA 6 launches as single player only, with online coming later, and I get why. They want the story to breathe on its own without splitting development resources. That's honestly a defensible decision, and I'd rather have a complete story on day one than a rushed online mode bolted onto it. But look at what happened with Red Dead Online. That mode showed real promise early on, genuinely fun ideas, a solid foundation, and then Rockstar quietly pulled resources off it in 2022 to focus everything on GTA 6, leaving that community feeling abandoned mid-update. If GTA 6 Online follows a similar pattern, launches strong, gets a year of committed support, then quietly fades while attention shifts elsewhere, that's a real risk worth flagging now rather than being surprised by later. I'm not saying it will happen, I'm saying it's happened before with this exact studio on their most recent online project, and that's worth remembering when everyone's assuming online will just magically be perfect this time, because it's GTA. Even GTA Online itself went through roughly a year and a half between some of its bigger content droughts, and that was their flagship live service game making billions. If they were willing to let updates slow on their biggest moneymaker, it's fair to ask what the update cadence looks like for a brand new online mode still finding its footing. Third on the list, and this is where I want to be careful because it's easy to turn this into pure cynicism, monetization. Shark cards made Rockstar an absurd amount of money in GTA Online, reportedly generating billions in revenue over the years, and there's basically zero chance they don't return in some form for GTA 6. The real question isn't whether microtransactions exist, it's whether the base game economy gets designed around pushing you toward them. If in-game prices for vehicles, businesses, and properties get set high enough that grinding legitimately feels miserable compared to just buying a shark card, that's the moment monetization stops being optional and starts being the actual design philosophy. This part isn't guaranteed to happen though. GTA 5's single-player economy was actually pretty generous. It was specifically online, where prices ballooned once shark cards became the obvious shortcut. So the real test isn't going to be whether shark cards exist. It's going to be whether Rockstar keeps that same single-player restraint and carries it into the online economy, or whether years of live service pressure eventually wins out the way it always seems to in this industry. We've already seen a preview of this tension with the Ultimate Edition, locking real gameplay locations behind a $20 paywall in the single-player game itself. If that mindset carries into the online economy, that's a pattern worth keeping an eye on. Let's take a step back for a second because it's easy to get lost treating these as 5 separate issues. They're not really separate. Performance, online support, monetization, story, and online tone are all connected by the same underlying question. Is Rockstar building this game to be genuinely great, or building it to be good enough to sell, with the rougher edges getting patched or monetized later? Historically, the answer has leaned toward the first one. But it hasn't always, and that's exactly why these 5 things are worth talking through instead of just assuming the best. Fourth, story quality without Dan Houser. This is the first mainline Grand Theft Auto that isn't written by Houser, who co-founded Rockstar and wrote every GTA up through GTA 5, plus Red Dead Redemption 2. He left the studio back in 2020. If you've ever wondered why GTA games have that specific blend of satire, real emotional weight, and characters who feel like actual people underneath the chaos, that's largely Houser's fingerprint on the writing. Losing that voice isn't like losing a random staff member. It's like a band losing its lead songwriter right before their most important album. Now, I want to be fair here, because everything Rockstar has shown us so far, the Bonnie and Clyde dynamic between Jason and Lucia, the relationship system, the tone of both trailers strongly suggests the new writing team understands the assignment. The dialogue we've heard, the character bios on Rockstar's own site, the way Jason and Lucia's relationship is described as their greatest strength and their biggest vulnerability, all of that reads like a team that gets what made these stories work in the first place. This isn't a doom prediction. But writing carries a franchise like this just as much as gameplay systems do, and losing the person who shaped the tone of GTA's biggest stories is a real transition, not a footnote. We won't actually know how this lands until we're deep into the campaign, and that uncertainty alone is enough to earn a spot on this list. Fifth and last, and this one leans more toward the online side than single player, the risk of GTA Online's late game chaos creeping back in too early. If you played GTA Online for any real stretch of time, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Flying bikes, weaponized vehicles, oppressors, raining rockets down on people just trying to do a simple delivery mission. It started as a fun, believable criminal sandbox and slowly turned into a superhero movie with none of the down-to-earth energy that made Vice City and Los Santos feel real in the first place. I'll be honest, there was a point a few years into GTA Online where I genuinely stopped recognizing the game as the same one I fell in love with. Business runs turned into dodging homing missiles fired from a bike that could fly. That's not a criminal underworld anymore, that's a cartoon. If Rockstar leans into that same escalation with GTA 6 Online, even gradually, it risks undercutting the exact tone they've spent 2 trailers building. Everything about Jason and Lucia's story so far has leaned intimate and personal for a GTA game, almost restrained compared to what GTA 5 became. Watching that world eventually get buried under jetpacks and flying cars would be a real tonal betrayal of what they're setting up right now. The fix here isn't complicated, it's restraint. Whether they'll actually hold that line once the online economy needs new things to sell you is the real question. Now here's the thing I want to leave you with. Every single one of these 5 points has a very real chance of just not happening at all. Rockstar might nail 60 frames per second with a smart performance mode. GTA 6 Online might get years of committed support instead of the Red Dead Online treatment. The economy might stay fair. The new writing team might turn in the best story the franchise has ever told. And the online chaos might stay believable because Rockstar's clearly building something more intentional this time around. I actually believe most of these concerns will end up being non-issues once we get our hands on the game. But being excited for something doesn't mean pretending it's flawless before it's even out. It means caring enough to hope they get the details right and being honest enough to say so if they don't. So here's what I actually want from you. Out of these 5, which one worries you the most? And more importantly, is there one I completely missed that's been sitting in the back of your mind? I want this to be a real conversation in the comments, not just people agreeing or disagreeing with me. Tell me where you land. Subscribe to Vercetti Vault because whatever happens with these 5 things, good or bad, we're going to be here covering it as it unfolds. I'll catch you in the next one.